Welcome to POMCLOSET, guys. Today I'm going to show you how to knit a very basic tank top by using the ASHUTOSH Express King size machine, which I have been using for a few of my videos. It's very easy, very simple to use. First of all, we will need the ASHUTOSH Express King size machine with 46 pegs or 46 needles. And the first black is position number 1 on this one. 1, 2, 3 and so on until the last stitch. Last number is 46. And here's the yarn slot. Here you can count the row, clear the row. And I always leave this red pegs here down. You can knit round or you can knit the flat panels. So on this video we will need to use a flat panel. I'm gonna use this cotton yarn from Hobby. So I bought one pack like this online, and the color is quite lovely. It's like a baby pink kind of color. So get this out and we will see. So the number of this yarn is 1488. Mayflower from Hobby. 4-ply cotton, the medium weight yarn. And you can use it with the needles or the crochet hook number 2.5, number 4. It's quite easy to use with the 4-ply yarn like this. And we will also need a pair of cutter, the yarn needle, some stitch markers, the tape measure, a pencil, a rubber and the note paper, which we will need to note some of the works down. To begin with, it's actually very simple. I have done many items with this machine. If you're new to this kind of machine, so I'm going to show you, it's very simple. Basically, you need to position the first peg or the first needles on where you have the yarn slots here. You will need to use the first peg or the first needles. I call them needles. And then you will need to do the zigzag. So make sure you position, if you're right-handed like me, you need to have the rotator on the right-hand side. You just need to put the yarns like zigzag like this. You need to first start from the first peg or the first needles and then just go zigzag front back like this. For this design I need to cast on 44 stitches. So I need to show you my yarn works out like. I will keep on going with the casting on. So do it for 44 stitches. Do it front back like this, very easy. And my 44 stitches is on this one. And you need to make sure the yarn go under behind the pegs, behind the needles, and put the yarn back into this yarn slot, press it down, close it, and then you need to rotate it back. By rotating it back, make sure every single needles catch the yarn. So like this, so it will bring the yarn down. So go slow first, like this one, almost missed it. If you missed any, it will ruin all the works. So make sure the first few rows, you need to go slow. And watch them carefully, like this one. First few rows quite difficult, but if you go slow, it will be fine. So you can see the yarn and the stitches, like this one. This yarn from Hobby is quite thin, but should be fine. So the first row is completed. Now we need to do the second row. The second row basically just need to rotate it back the opposite way to what you have just done. So make sure the yarn go under these pegs. So just keep doing this slowly. So you can see from my row here is on row 2. So make sure you clear the row before starting to work. And here's end of row 2. So make sure once the pegs catch the yarn under on the last stitch here, you need to rotate it back to the opposite way. I'm starting to do row 3. So just keep on like this. You need to go backwards, forwards, back and forth for the total of 80 rows. So this machine or this design, it's going to be size XS, S and M, because the needles of this machine can only go this far. I will keep knitting until I get to row 80. So we only need the back and the front piece for this design. The rest we will do the edging by using the crochet hook. It's very simple. You can use any colors of your choice. You can mix the color. I'm done with 80 rows of the back piece. So now we need to reduce the armhole. I will use the hair clip because I prefer to use these rather than the small stitch markers, and then you can actually insert these onto the last stitch here very easily, like this. Put the stitch markers on both sides, left and right. We need to reduce 1 stitches every row for 3 rows, both left and right. So I will need to use the crochet hook. I need to, after row 80, I need to rotating the crochet hook here backwards and transfer the last stitch to the one next to it. So this will be our first stitch on this side. This is the back piece. And then knit. And before you reach the last stitch, you need to transfer the last one onto the one next to it. So we are reducing 1 stitch on each side and knit. Now we need to repeat these for 2 more rows because I want to reduce the armhole. And on this side, rotating the machines back. Use the crochet hook to transfer the last stitch to the one next to it. Put the yarn back on this side, the peg can knit. And then you need to knit straight. Keep rotating the machine. And before the last stitch, you need to transfer the last stitch here to the one next to it, and then knit to complete the second row after reducing the armhole. Now we need to repeat 1 more time. So rotating the rotators backwards and transfer. Put the yarn back in, then knit. Before the last stitch, you need to transfer to the one next to it, then knit to complete these. So for this design, I want to reduce only the armhole for 3 rows. So you can see, reduce 1 stitch every row for 3 rows. The rest you will need to knit straight. So we have done 80 rows and we need to knit 35 rows of the back piece. We have done 3, so I need to knit for 32 rows more. You can actually note down the number of rows that you have done. So I have done 1, 2, 3 like this, and then you will need to knit straight. Here's row 4. Here's row 5 and so on. So make sure you have 35 rows in total of the section that we've got left. So I have done 3 rows with the reducing for the armhole, and I have done 2 more rows, so that would be 5 together. I need to knit 30 row extra. So I will keep on going until I get to the last row, and then we will get back to cast off. I'm done with 35 rows in total after you reducing the armhole part. So basically you cast on 44 stitches, knit straight for 80 rows. The length should be 22 inches because 3.7 rows is 1 inch. So I have calculate this section. The rest you will need to reduce 1 stitches each side for both left and right for 3 rows. And then knit straight. At the end you will have 38 stitches left. Now we need to cast off this back piece. By casting off, I will do the easy cast off by using the crochet hook. And then you need to rotate, transfer the first stitch onto the crochet hook, and then just pull the yarn through first. And I will use the stitch markers so I know where I have started. Put the stitch markers on. The next stitch, transfer the yarn to the crochet hook. You will have 2 loops left on the hook, and then you need to put the yarn through chain 1. So the rest of the stitches you need to repeat. Transfer to the crochet hook, 2 stitches left, pull the yarn through chain 1. Next one, keep rotating the machine. 2 loops, put the yarn through chain 1. So you will have a very neat finish. Next one, transfer, put the yarn through chain 1. Rotating, put the yarn, transfer, put the yarn through chain 1. So keep repeating this until the end. Here is the last stitch. The last stitch I always ended up with big loops, so I will need to maybe go insert a crochet hook underneath of the yarn, the part here next to it, and then you will need to have like 3 loops. Pull the yarn through chain 1, cut off the yarn, pull the yarn through. After you cast off, you will have something similar to this. So the length of the dress should be, here's 22 inches and that's 9, so it should be 31 inches length of the top. And now I need to work on the edging. On this part here, I want the edge to look better, so I will work on the part where we've cast on. So by inserting the crochet hook through the first stitch, and then we need to find where it's actually make the piece untidy. So I have found it, so that would be this part, so it would be this one here, and then I will pull it and then cut off the yarn like this. So make sure you still keep this part tight, and then I will reconnecting the yarn. I always go like left to right, like right to left. After that we need to pull the yarn through like this. You need to move on to the next stitch. So I will slowly release the yarn where I just cut off, and then insert a crochet hook through, pull the yarn through chain 1, just like the one we have just cast off, like this. Pull the yarn through and make sure you have the stitch, the new stitch to work on. Pull the yarn through, chain 1, move on to the next stitch. Try to pull the yarn where you have cut off out slowly, so you have to have the stitch first. I work from the front before pull the yarn on my left end through. Pull the yarn through, chain 1. The rest you will have to repeat. Make sure the stitch where the next stitch here, make sure this end doesn't loose, otherwise you will ruin all the piece. Pull the yarn through, chain 1, next stitch. I want my end to be very, very neat. Pull the yarn through, chain 1. So it would look exactly the same as where we have just cast off. Next stitch. Pull the yarn through, chain 1. So keep repeating this until the end. You will have a very nice and neat edging. So I will see you at the end of the last stitch. And here's the last stitch. You need to cut off the yarn. Before you pull the yarn through, you need to make sure chain 1 and then pull the yarn through like this. So you will have a very lovely edging, both the bottom part as well as the top part. So the back piece is completed. You should have the measurement I have given from the beginning. Now let's keep the back piece on the side. Making the front piece is similar to the back piece by casting on. So we need to do exactly the same. The front piece, make sure you position the back peg on the first one and clear all the rows. So it's back to 0, and then do the zigzag one. Casting on is very easy, the same as the back piece, and then you need to knit for 80 rows. So the first 80 rows part we will do exactly the same for both front and back. So after you cast on the machine for 44 stitches, and then keep rotating backwards, forwards, back and forth for 80 rows, and then we will get back to do the armholes and the v-neck part. Here's my 80 rows, and I need to put the stitch markers on both sides, on the left and the right, just like the back piece. And we need to reduce the size for the armholes. This is the front piece, so we need to reduce 1 stitch every row for 6 rows on the armholes part. And for the inner part, which is going to be the v-neck, we will need to reduce every 4 row 1 stitch. So I will also mark the stitch markers on the middle part of this top. So as we have 44 stitches all the way around here, we need to put the stitch markers on the number 22, which is going to be here. So that would be the middle part of this top. So put the stitch markers on there, so you know where's the middle part. By reducing this piece, the front piece, it's going to be a bit complicated. We will not only reduce the armhole part, we will also reduce the middle part. So we are going to make the v-neck for the total of 35 rows. You will also need the paper to note down the stitches. I will write it down like the armhole, and this one is the, I would say, the v-neck. For the armhole, I will reduce first. I will work from where I still have the yarn left. So would be my row 1 for armhole. We need 6 of them, 1 on each rows. Get the yarn out of the yarn slot, and then you need to transfer the yarn from the first needle to the second one. Put the yarn back into the yarn slot, close, and then knit until you meet the middle part of this top, which is here. You need to transfer the yarn from the last peg or the last stitch onto the previous one. I will rotate the machine backwards to get this stitch here out. It's going to be very tricky, but it's come out. And then rotate it back so we can pull this yarn. I'll put this stitch so we'll be able to transfer the yarn to the stitch before. So, and then put the yarn back into the yarn slot like this, and then I have reduced one stitch on the V-neck side. On the V-neck we need one stitch every 4 rows, but the armhole we need one every row for 6 rows. So now I need to knit. And before the end of the row we need to transfer the stitch back to the last one, and then knit to complete armhole row 2. For row 3 you need to get the yarn out of the yarn slot, transfer the last stitch to the one next to it, put the yarn back, make sure don't pull the yarn too tight, and then knit. Here is the last stitch from the previous one, so I will knit until this row, and you have to watch out on this stitch, so make sure you don't lose the stitch on this one on the other side of the V-neck. I will put the stitch markers to hold the yarn like this, and then we can bring this back onto the stitch. So you have to be very careful. So I'll leave it like this on this side, and here's my last stitch. I don't need to reduce anything on the V-neck side. Knit until you reach the last stitch, and then you need to transfer the yarn back, and then knit to complete, rotating it back, transfer to the stitch next to it, put the yarn back, knit. And on this one, on the chest part or on the V-neck part, we need to also reduce on the 4th one every 4 rows. So you can note anything that you'll be able to understand. The 4th one I need to reduce, get the yarn off the yarn slot, transfer the stitch to the one next to it, put the yarn back, and then you need to knit. Before you reach the last stitch, you need to also transfer. So that would be the 6th one. So here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 6th one you don't need to reduce. Now it's the 7, so I will keep noting down the 7, no need to reduce. And on the armhole parts you don't need to reduce neither, because we only need 6 stitches for 6 rows. And then one more on this row, no need to reduce on the chest part. but the next one we will need to, because this would be the fourth one, every 4 rows we need to reduce. So transfer and then knit. So the armhole don't need to reduce, and then for the next one we don't need to reduce. Keep doing this until you get to row 35. The next one, on this row also you don't need to reduce, but the next one you need to reduce every 4 rows. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So row 14. Row 15. Row 16. Row 17 we need to reduce. Row 17. And then 18 no need to reduce. 18, 19, 20, and then 21 we need to reduce. Here's 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25 we need to reduce. Seven, 28, and 29 we need to reduce. Here's 29, 30, 31, 32, 33 we need to reduce, 34 and 35 to complete this side of the v-neck. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stitches left, and then we need to cast off. By casting off, basically just the seam as the back piece. This time I'm working from the left hand side. Need to put the yarn through like this, and make sure you put the stitch markers on so you know where the corner of the work. Next stitch, keep rotating the rotator, 2 loops on the crochet hook, put the yarn through, chain 1. Next stitch, transfer, put the yarn through, chain 1. Next stitch, transfer, pull the yarn through, chain 1. Next stitch, pull the yarn through, chain 1. Pull the yarn through, chain 1. Here is the last stitch. The last stitch you always have a very long loop, so I will go in between here, and then to make the 3 loops on the crochet hook, pull the yarn through, chain 1. I will cut off the yarn. I will leave it for half a meter because I want to use this end to attach to the back piece. One side of the top is finished, so we need to work on the other side. The other side I will start from the middle part here. So we need to reconnecting the yarn. Here is a stitch that came out, but I still have the stitch markers left, so I need to put this back onto the stitch. So we will start working from this one. Here is the middle part of the work. So I will make a loop, and then we need to put this back onto the stitch where we are working on. By doing this, you will have the secure end, because I don't want this end to be loose when we working. And then put the yarn behind the peg or the stitch, and then we will start from the middle part here, and then we knit. So make sure you note it down. The front part we have done, so the V-neck, so I will write it down like row 1 to reduce the V-neck, and knit. And before the end of the last stitch, we need to transfer, because we need to reduce 6 stitches of the armhole. Transfer this back in and knit. So that means we have the armhole 1, you need 6 of them, and row 2, I still need to transfer the stitch to the next one. Put the yarn back, armhole 2, and this one is number, I will put this down. This would be the second one, no need to reduce for the V-neck. And then knit. I hope you don't get confused. For the V-neck, on this part we don't need to reduce. And for the third row, the V-neck, no need to reduce, but you need to reduce the armhole. On the third row, the knit is the third row of the armhole. On the fourth row of the armhole, we need to reduce. Fourth row of the armhole. Make sure you note it down, otherwise you get confused. And I will knit straight until the last 2 stitches. We need to transfer. This is the neckline on the 4th row, so I will transfer the last stitch to the one next to it, and then knit. So now on the 5th row of the armhole, we need to reduce, knit. 6th row of the armhole to complete the last stitch. This is 6. So armhole is 6 stitches completed. 7. Neckline we don't need to reduce. 7. Row 8. Don't need to reduce. And 35 is the last stitch. So, and then we need to cast off exactly the same as what I've shown you on the other side of the top. The front piece is also done. So you can see here, this is the V-neck. I still have the end on the last piece that I have just cast off. I will also work on this end, the edging, exactly the same as the back piece. Alright, now I have the clean edge at the bottom part of this top, so I will bring the back piece to connect. And by doing this, we need to put the right side to the right side together. So I will actually lay down the back piece first. Now we need to bring the front piece to the back one. We need to work the front, the right side need to be facing the right side, and then I will put the stitch markers along. Put the stitch markers. Here's the armhole. Here's the other armhole, and then I will work along here. But for me, I think I want to have the I would say I want to have the split on the side of this top, so I will maybe leave it around, I will go for 7 inches, and put the stitch markers on. Seven inches here. The back side, 7 inches. And the rest you need to balance the length. Put the stitch markers here and there, both sides, if you want to do the split like mine. I will do on the other side as well as the top part, but for now I need to show you where I still have the yarn left, how to connect. We need to work stitch by stitch. This is the last stitch. I will work from where I have the yarn left. So at the end you will have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, around 14 stitches. And then I will slip stitch, turn to work from my right hand side, and then I will do the back stitch to the back stitch together, and then slip stitch, back to back, slip stitch, back to back, slip stitch like this, all the way to the end. At the end of the last stitch I will cut off the yarn. And then we need to work on the other side. So I have connected the shoulder part, so you can see the V-neck shape, as well as put lots of stitch markers on the side of the top. And I will now reconnecting the side. For the side it's very easy, very simple. You need to put the front, the back together, and we will start from the I would see here's where we put the stitch markers on row 80, reconnecting the yarn, pull the yarn through, leave the end for sewing, and we will start working by using, I pull the yarn through first, chain 1, and then put the back piece, front piece together, slip stitch. Make sure you don't pull the yarn too tight, and then front, back, slip stitch, front, back, slip stitch like this, all the way down to where you have the last stitch markers, and then cut off the yarn, reconnecting the yarn on the other side, and repeat. And I have connected the side, both left and right, as well as the shoulder part. I will turn the top to the right side. Here's the bottom of this top, and I still have the yarn left. So I will chain 1 to close this part here, and then cut off the yarn because I don't want any extra pattern or extra stitches on my top. So I will keep the end very easy, simple, like this. So it's very light top, and then you can wear it in the summer days or even in winter time. So you can wear it on top of the shirt. You can style this top in many ways. And for the armholes, I will need to reconnecting the yarn, and then just go with the single crochet all the way unless you want to leave it like this. But for me, I'm just gonna reconnecting the yarn and then just do this. I'm just gonna do the simple edging. For the top, this is the armhole. I still have the yarn left, so I will reconnecting the yarn on this part here. So my easy, simple way to reconnecting the yarn. Left to right, right back to left. Pull the yarn and then cut off this excess end. After that, I'm just gonna go, this is the right side, I'm working on the right side for the edging. Pull the yarn through and then just go like, I would do single crochet all the way around the armhole part. There is no specific stitches, so you just need to go along with the gap or the length of the single crochet stitches. I just want to keep the single crochet on this section. I don't want to add any extra stitches. So go all the way around, and at the end, once you complete this round, you will need to slip stitch on the first, and the tank top is finished. Here as you will see, I have put the single crochet all the way around the armholes, both of them left and right, as well as the neckline. So just a simple single crochet, unless you want to do other stitches like the picot stitch, or it's entirely up to you if you want to decorate or change something from what I have shown you. And here is a very simple tank top, very easy to make, very fast with this machine. This AliExpress king size machine really helps make my life easier. I can do so many designs with this machine. And this top fits size S and M. I would say it's stretch. Can stretch up to size M, size medium, or even large, but as the yarn is very thin, if it's stretched too much, it might look very see-through. But it's perfect for the summertime, summer days, because you can wear it with the short. It's very light. It's 100% cotton yarn that we used. It's not going to be too warm. It's going to be very easy to wear. Very simple top, easy style. You can choose any color of your choice, or you can wear it or style it with any items of your favorite. So far I really hope you liked the tutorial, guys. If there is any questions, please feel free to leave the comments down below, and I will get back to you, as well as supporting me by clicking the super thanks at the bottom of the video. So I really hope you like the tutorial, guys. Don't forget to share the works after. If you have ever done any from my channel, please tag POMCLOSET on my Instagram account. I would love to see the works, and I will see you in the next video.